amazing Gloria Nalule McLaughlin, who is the Executive Director of the Uganda Global Forum. She's passionate about the diaspora issues and international migration. Miss Gloria, you're welcome to the podcast.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thanks for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
Okay, first things first. For someone who may not know you or has heard of you for the first time, how would you introduce yourself?
All right. Well, you've already done a little bit of that. So my name is Gloria Nalule McLaughlin. And yes, I am the Executive Director of Uganda Global Forum. Now, for those of you who may not know about Uganda Global Forum, this is a diaspora-led coordination platform that works to coordinate Uganda diaspora engagement. And with diaspora engagement, a lot of people interpret that very many ways, but in short, it is how people who have lived abroad are able to work amongst each other, but also with the country to transfer skills, to send home investments, to come home and serve in their country, to make sure that being away from home does not mean that they are not citizens of the country, but also living in the host countries they live in doesn't mean that they're strangers to each other. So what Global Forum does is that we make sure that we have a coordination mechanism for those people to interact with each other, to know about opportunities around each other, but also to keep them engaged with what is happening back home in terms of programs, in terms of activities, in terms of even civic engagement. Outside what I do, I also am an international development professional in several areas, because international development is very, very broad, but currently my focus is on migration and development. In the past, I have worked on sexual and reproductive health with various institutions, including the United Nations in the offices in New York. I have also in the past worked with Oxfam Novib in The Hague, what the Dutch call Den Haag, and I've also served on HIV prevention programs in Uganda. So in a nutshell, that is my political identity of who I am. But as a person, I am a wife and a mother to a beautiful daughter, born and raised in Uganda, currently living in the US. But altogether, I like to say that I am a global citizen and I am happy to be here. Over to you.
Nice. Let's talk about the Uganda Global Forum. It's a community that brings the diaspora, together and one. But someone may ask, what differentiates the Uganda Global Forum from other diaspora groups? Let's say like UNA, like USAC in China, like others. What makes the Uganda Diaspora Forum different? And why should members in the diaspora really relate to the Uganda Global Forum?
Wait, so the examples that you gave are the same examples I'm going to refer to. So UNA is a region or country association of Ugandans. And for those of you who don't know what UNA is a Ugandan association, Ugandans in North America association. So what that does is bring together Ugandans living in that region of the world. Same as the Ugandan community in China, it brings Ugandans living in the country of China. But what Uganda Global Forum does, and I want you to mark the keyword global, is that our engagement is from a global perspective. We do not work in just a region. We do not work in just a country, because as Ugandans, we are global citizens. We are in every corner of the world. So what we do and what makes us different from other associations is that we are actually the very first organization and coordination platform that brings together Ugandans from all over the world at a global level, from the diaspora side. Now, there has been government efforts to coordinate the diaspora, but the approaches have been different. It has been where the government talks to one country from another to another, at different times. But what Global Forum is trying to do is organize the diaspora side to make sure that the diaspora, as you hear it, does not mean just one country or one association. And in the past, even myself included, before I traveled to outside Uganda, I used to think the diaspora meant UNA, or it meant Ugandans in the UK. But then that is not what the diaspora is. The diaspora is every Ugandan all over the world, wherever they are, all together come up to form that word diaspora. So what Global Forum does is to make sure that actually in the representation of Ugandans in the diaspora, we are talking at a global comprehensive approach. When you're talking about engaging Ugandans in the diaspora, we are not meaning just UNA or Ugandans in UK or Ugandans in Poland. We are meaning bringing people on the same table who come from all aspects of the diaspora, including China, including Cyprus, including Greece, including Malaysia, you name it. So we make sure that that coordination happens. We make sure that when there's rooms that are talking about diaspora engagement, there is representation from the world, from diaspora communities across the world in those rooms, But at the same time, it does not mean that we are taking away from what UNA, from what Ugandans in China are doing, because it is from those efforts that the global effort occurs. Without the local efforts, without the UNA, without Ugandans in Germany, without Ugandans in South Korea, there is no global forum, So that is what makes us different. And at the same time, Uganda Global Forum is not government. It is not an initiative or a platform that is led by government. It is Ugandans in the diaspora themselves sitting in one place and say, how can we show up together? We have everything that it takes for us to self-organize, to show up as one. Because I am diaspora. I have lived in diaspora for over 10 years in different corners of the world, So I relate with that vision of, look, when they say diaspora, it is fair that everywhere that I've been, because there's Ugandans there, those people are brought in those rooms and in those spaces. So that is what Uganda Global Forum is all about. Diaspora-led and diaspora coordinated, that works with diaspora organizations at country level and with government to bring together diaspora in a way that engages the diaspora meaningfully.
Okay, someone may ask, does the Uganda Global Forum coordinate with, what is your relationship with government bodies? Let's say the State House diaspora thing, maybe with Ministry of Foreign Affairs, or maybe with the different embassies there. What's your relation with the government in returns with your work? And have they been helpful so far?
That's a good question. Well, so as Ugandans, because Global Forum is comprised of Ugandans, it is our citizen right. It's a citizenship and constitutional right to engage with government institutions. There's actually an article in the Constitution that gives Ugandans rights to participate in the implementation of programs that develop the country. So in response to that, the relationship we have with government and government institutions is constitutional. It is a common agenda of how can we as Ugandans, both in the country and those outside the borders of the country, work together to advance the agendas of the country's national development efforts. So for platforms like, not platforms, government bodies like the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, yes, we have a working relationship with. They know our existence and they know that the diaspora, and by the way, this is not the only diaspora effort that these government agencies engage, So Uganda Global Forum is one of the very many that work with government to fulfill a common agenda of advancing the country. And yes, we have received a lot of support from these government institutions. The Ministry of Foreign Affairs, they've given us audience. They've called out on our perspectives. What do you guys think? I do actually write a column in the Ministry of Foreign Affairs diplomatic note newsletter. I have written a few over there that talks about diaspora engagement. And that was a call to action from the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and says, hey, We want to hear about the diaspora and what you guys are all about. So giving us spaces like that, it is efforts by the government to give visibility. And this is just one of very many. So many diaspora organizations have been called upon. And when you talk about government institutions, talk about Ministry of Foreign Affairs, talk about the desks in different ministries, we also have government within the diaspora. And that is through embassies, through the missions, you name it. Every day we work with them, we reach out to them. They have services, we have support that we need from them. So yes, we do work with them. And yes, we do have a common agenda, which is developing Uganda. And as the diaspora, of course, we have a role to play. And as government, they have a role to play, including supporting us do our work.
Okay. Now that you're doing, having a platform that brings Uganda and the diaspora together, there's the elephant in the room that Uganda doesn't have a diaspora policy, sort of like something that affects, that is written that affects the diaspora. The Ugandan diaspora can't vote. I remember when we were getting our national IDs in China, it was a hassle. You feel left out when in the diaspora in terms of getting government services and contributing to your country, and that will reflect with the diaspora policy. So that will come with how are you trying to advocate for the diaspora policy, and also which items would you really want in that policy if you are given the chance to present it to Parliament? What would you really want to tell them?
That's a great question. Well, yes, so the diaspora policy, good news for us is that it is work in progress. And as I speak right now, there is a zero draft of that policy. It is underway, and the Ministry of Foreign Affairs with different stakeholders, including the diaspora, are working tirelessly to make sure that we do have a policy. And of course, it's taken us a little bit longer than usual, than other countries, to get to a policy like this. But again, it is work in progress, And I always say that the diaspora is not going anywhere. The diaspora is here, and does not excuse us from not doing things we need to do. But it is here, and sometimes development does not happen instantly. It is a process that sometimes takes work, but it is through platforms like Uganda Global Forum that we want to accelerate some of these processes that have in the past, got stuck or not made as much progress because of the lack of an organized engagement from the diaspora. But this time round, I'm very positive. We are in touch with the government bodies. We've, of course, let them know that we want to be included. We want our voices to be included in this policy. It is for us, and we should have a voice in there. And those efforts are currently ongoing. I think in the coming not very many months, we will see a call to the diaspora to input or to share their inputs, but also to review and revise the draft that will be put out at the time. And this is an opportunity for the diaspora to come in and read. Sometimes when you receive documents like this from the government, people say, oh yeah, this is blah, blah, blah. It's too much English from government. I don't care. But these are documents that design laws that affect you, So when I answer this question, it is also a call to action for diaspora people who have had issues, who want to see not just issues, but who have suggestions. Because as the diaspora, we are so much privileged that we sit at the intersection of very many countries' best practices. So coming in and say, guys, look, I have read, I have seen, I've witnessed, I've been in rooms where diaspora policies of countries like Ireland or China or Mexico have this and this in place. This is an opportunity for us as Uganda to make sure that we tailor-make some of these suggestions to fit our daily realities as diaspora, So you come one, come all, and make your voices heard in these processes. Now, the questions of what are the issues, what key issues would we like to see, reflecting in these policy documents? Personally, I think and I'm going to refer to the ongoing conversation of the dual citizenship. Right now, the nation is buzzing around with diaspora and dual citizenship issues and civic engagement. I think that is one of the big ones, but beyond civic engagement, I would like to see an alignment between what the Constitution says and what the immigration laws says. Because when it comes to dual citizenship, for example, children that are born to Ugandan parents abroad that automatically acquire another nation's citizenship are not allowed to apply for Ugandan dual citizenship until they turn age 18. And I'll give this as an example of in the US. Anybody that's born in the US on the American soil automatically becomes an American citizen by birth, right? If a child is born by a Ugandan citizen on the American soil, that child automatically becomes an American citizen. Now, if the parent of that child is an American citizen already, regardless of where that child is born, whether on the soil of America or outside, it can be an American visiting Uganda on holiday and then they have a baby. By birth, that child automatically becomes an American. We have the same provision on the Constitution of Uganda. Anybody that is born of Ugandan citizens, could be your parents are Ugandan citizens or your grandparents are Ugandan citizens, you automatically become a Ugandan citizen, However, that does not extend to Ugandan children who already hold another country's citizenship. I don't know if I'm making myself clear. So a child who is born on the American soil or to American parents, but could be one of the parents is Ugandan or even both. When that child is born, they automatically become American citizens, but they should also automatically become Ugandan citizens because that's what the Constitution allows. So that dual citizenship currently for the children is not allowed until the child grows up to be age 18. So now what happens in between is that this child only identifies as American until they're 18, even if at home they speak Uganda, the child is full on Ugandan. So what that does and what I would like to see change is that there's an identity mismatch because every time that child travels to Uganda, they are treated as foreigners. They are required to have a visa. They are required to stay in the country for a limited period of time. They're not allowed to take a job. Okay, their children are allowed to work, but they do not benefit from other privileges that come with one being Ugandan. And we have gone ahead to see these children grow up in the diaspora. In the diaspora, the moment you look different, the moment you have an accent, the question to you will always be, where are you from? Because you're not of the land. And a lot of our children who do not identify as Ugandan at the low level are getting confused. They're having an identity crisis because everywhere they ask them, who are you? But when they come to fulfill, information in a document, they say, I'm not Ugandan. Even if people ask who I am, I say I'm Ugandan. And then we don't even stop there. We are having a lot of these children enter sports activities, for example. I have friends in the diaspora who have children with dual citizenship, who should be having dual citizenship, but for some reason are not allowed to have Ugandan dual citizenship. When they go to play for nations in these professional sports games, we have friends who have kids who swim. We have kids who are on soccer teams. We have kids who are on baseball, tennis teams in these countries abroad. And then when they ask, which country are you playing for? Of course, they are forced, or they have no options if they wanted to represent Uganda in these spaces to do so, because Uganda does not allow them until they are age 18, where they would have to apply and ask and beg the government to give them their constitutional right to be citizens. So that kind of mismatch, I think, it does more harm than good, and I would love to see that change. It does give an identity confusion for our children who are born to Ugandan citizens. It also does take away from a nation in terms of diplomacy. We have sports diplomacy. It's a very big and growing sector, and we want representation at the global scale. So if we want to tap into that, I really think we need to fix that. And then thirdly, the financial and administration costs onto parents for every time they have to come to Uganda. They have to apply for visas, pay for visa fees, make sure they don't overstay, make sure if the child is sick, they have to run and renew them. Like that administrative cost for a person who is of the land, who is a citizen, I think is unnecessary and unfair and should be dealt away with. So that is one thing that I would really love to see the policy advocate for a change. And then you also did mention on the issue of on voting, the Constitution again allows Ugandan citizens in every capacity to have the ability to vote, and the parliament has been given a job to do on that, to make sure that that happens. But as we speak, we know that Ugandans in the diaspora, which would be quote unquote a different constituency, we don't have access to exercising that constitutional right in the diaspora. If you want to do that, you just have to take a flight, come home, and then vote. And a lot of us, that is not something that we are able to do because of the kind of lives we live, but also because of the timing of events. There's people who are students who are sitting exams during Ugandan election period, so they can't afford to be away. There's people who are parents, so they can't leave children and family obligations to come and vote, So it is issues like those that inconvenience our identity, but also make people question if they are truly Ugandan when they live outside. And then lastly, out of the very many, I would definitely like to see the government put in place conditions, enabling conditions for diaspora engagement. One of my fields of study was economics. I have a Bachelor's of Arts in Economics. And during my economics classes, we always had things that came up and, what are the conditions for economic growth? For a country to grow, what needs to be in place for that to happen? And it is the same question that I've asked over and over on what should be the conditions for diaspora engagement to work, One, we are continuing to see diaspora engagement as a mainstream development agenda. We are seeing actually it is going viral. Very many countries are leaning and leveraging their diaspora to do so much, including the remittances, including the diaspora direct investments, but including the skills transfer. You see, the country of India has already been built from the diaspora capital, including the intellectual capital. We look at countries like Israel, which had the whole nation expelled, and now they're spread all over the world. But they have put in place to make sure that wherever they are around the world, they're still building the country. They don't need to relocate. They can be where they are and still build the country. We have seen countries like South Korea. South Korea has done a diaspora engagement miracle. Matter of fact, in the 60s, South Korea was poorer than Uganda. You can imagine that. But today, South Korea gives Uganda aid. It is a donor country right now. And this is a country that doesn't have any natural resources. They don't have gold. They don't have oil. They don't have all the beautiful things God has blessed Uganda with. They're a little country that gets really hard winters and very hot summers. Their agriculture window is this small, but they have managed to feed the nation. They don't run hungry like we see countries that have abundance of rain and beautiful loam soils to grow food do. So the question is, how have these countries who have little managed to do so much? What can we learn from them? And I think they cracked the puzzle. Nations are built by their people. And when we say the people, it doesn't mean only the people within the borders of those nations. It is actually the people that are out of the borders of the nations, aka the diaspora, that they're like like a gold of that country. And if you don't mine it, you're going to miss out a lot. So I would like to see the diaspora policy put together these conditions, and that could be for people who want to invest, the diasporans who want to come home and invest. When we are seeing foreign direct investors, they have lots of tax incentives. They have all sorts of breaks. They have all things that enable them to come home and invest. Why isn't that privilege extended to Ugandans global citizens that really want to do the very same? And we have seen over years that the diaspora is really capable of doing that. Our remittances contribution is almost overtaking the foreign direct investment contributions to the nation. Before you know it, we will be giving the nation more money than they get out of the foreign investors that they bring home. So for us to grow that, we need the government, we need the policymakers to lobby for conditions that will make Ugandans in the diaspora want to come home. Same goes to the Ugandans who want to transfer skills. And JP, you will agree with me as a scholar who is working in the first world countries, studying in the first world countries, China. You have seen how the Chinese have done it, right? This is a country that actually is called a knowledge-based economy. That's the kind of economy they have grown. To them, they have developed through learning. They go to other countries, see what people do there. They see a Gucci bag, they study a Gucci bag, they see the threads used, and then they come home and use that knowledge to produce the same exact Gucci bag, and people buy it. That is skills transfer. But for that to happen, the people who are doing all this knowledge have to be motivated and incentivized to come back home. And when they come home and provide this knowledge shouldn't be put on the shelf to catch dust. It should actually be put in a way that it is institutionally absorbed by the very many institutions that would use this knowledge, So things like that, the political will to see diaspora as a plus, not as a threat, is a paradigm shift we need to make on diaspora. Not every diaspora is opposition. Not every diaspora is anti-government. We have built that bad narrative around diaspora, which is not true. We have diaspora that are very patriotic. We have diasporas that really want to come home. A lot of people are not even very happy out there. They want to come home. But the conditions for that to happen are still lagging, and it keeps away Uganda's, not creme de la creme, but I know there's a lot of creme de la creme in the country, but it does keep away that category of Ugandans that have global perspectives, because they've been thrown in the world and lived and experienced and learned what other nations are doing. So in a nutshell, this is what I would love to see in not just the diaspora policy, but in all policies that are trying to engage the diaspora, but also the national will on engaging the diaspora. That's what I would really want to see. Over to you.
Okay, nice. I think you've answered two questions in one that I'm going to ask you following up. I just want to ask, now that usually the Ugandan or African diaspora faces just a discrimination abroad, and some of it is caused by the narrative that is on Western media or foreign media about the continent. How would you say that the diaspora can contribute in redefining the African narrative, telling the real African story, to try to demystify what people think about Africa and Uganda in general? How can we play a part?
Right. And that's a very good question, and it's every African's business. I think as Africans, we should be our own continent ambassadors. When we leave the continent and live or work or travel or engage in countries outside our continent, it should be our duty to represent the continent in the way that we want to be seen. I have seen, even bringing it to a country level, I have seen, and I'm not going to name countries, but I have seen certain countries go through a lot of things that would be on the internet, but it's prohibited for those things to come out because of the damage they have on the nation's brand and the perpetuation of stereotypes that they wouldn't think would serve them. So that kind of gatekeeping bad practices, bad images, bad media from going out there to the world, I think should be a civic duty of all Africans, you know. For some reasons, we unfortunately perpetuate some of this bad media and stereotypes around ourselves by the narratives we speak about ourselves. We don't have the vocabulary to speak good about ourselves for some reasons. And again, this is a general statement. It does not go for everybody. But I think this is something as Africans we should train ourselves to do. I have seen countries where you speak to children there, and a lot of people say, oh my goodness, you're deluded to think you guys are like that. I'm not going to name names. It is ingrained in the education system. As young as 2, 3, 4, 5, these children are being told, oh, this is the greatest country in the world. You know, oh, God save this country. Oh, we are the world. We are this, we are that. That confidence building is lacking in a lot of African education systems. And for us to become great global citizens, to become good national advocates for the countries we come from, this has to be ingrained in our culture, in our education systems, in our upbringing, you know, even in our homes. How do you talk about yourself? And I'll give an analogy of you come from a home that has a lot of problems. For example, you come from a home where your mother or your parents fight every day. You come from a home where the house is always dirty. You come from a home where whoever goes there to visit, they steal their purses. You know, the road that goes to your home has a lot of holes in them, and all things terrible happen in your home. There are parts of the home that smell because the trash is not taken out or recycled where it should be. And then you go out to meet friends who don't live in your home. And they say, hey, tell us about where you come from. I don't think any of us do that. You know, we don't hang our dirty linens about our homes to our friends, to people we've just met, to ask us where we come from. We actually, matter of fact, end up telling them, oh, my mom, my dad, they're all fine. Yeah, we live in a good home. We actually are very fine. We were happy. We tend to not overshare about the bad stuff that are in our homes because that makes us feel embarrassed. That makes us feel like, oh, these people won't be our friends if they know where we come from, if we come from this kind of conditions. Or maybe they will laugh at me, or they will talk about me, and I don't want that, right? So what makes us think it is okay to conceal the dirt about where we come from in our homes, but the same analogy, we don't do it about the country that we come from when we are interacting with foreigners or with people from other countries. What happens in between, you know? And I don't know whether because as the continent, the citizens of the land continue to be disappointed, continue to be hopeless of where things are, and they have lost the love for themselves. They've lost the love for the land, that whining about what's wrong does feel good than people quote unquote deluding yourself to think things that are wrong are actually not there, you know. But again, you got on to ask, what do you get out of telling about your home the way you do? How has that served you? Because the last time I checked, it has perpetuated the stereotypes that have furthered the discrimination around you. And that is not working, you know. And this discrimination does not only stop at you, it stops at children who look like you. It stops at rooms with people who look like you. Unfortunately, we have a problem in the diaspora where our children who go to school feel isolated by other children who say, oh no, my mommy says I shouldn't play with a person who looks like you because of where you come from. And then our babies come home crying and say, Mommy, people don't want to be my friends. And so what happened? They say, because of me, So as Africa, really, we need to build the muscle. We need actually to find vocabulary of what we can say about us. We need to train our children on how to perceive themselves. And maybe we need to have a continental rule against people who give bad publicity to the continent, because it does indeed affect us, And as the diaspora, when people come to us with all these preconceived notions about where we come from, we should learn on how to correct them. Not be defensive, but we should learn how to talk about ourselves to people who have already formed the image, of who we are, so we just do damage control. And I think the Uganda Global Forum will be having experts. We're going to have sessions on how we can discuss identity, because we do have several pillars that we work with, but we also have an identity pillar, because as the diaspora, we go through a lot of the identity changes. Some of us have hyphenated identities. For example, me, you say I'm a McLaughlin, that's an Irish name. And I'm in Nalule and other things outside that. So we are going to have to train, or we are going to have to tighten our image of ourselves, but also we're going to have to train ourselves how to raise the next generation to see itself and how they show up to the rest of the world. That's what I can say for now.
Nice. I really like that explanation. Okay, one of my final questions would be for the Ugandan youth or African youth in the diaspora listening in. What would be your advice to them right now?
Well, the Ugandan youth in the diaspora, my advice for you is you are only just getting started. Actually, your youthness is so lucky that you have no excuses today. People who came in the diaspora 20 years ago were very isolated from the world, from themselves and from their families. But today's youth are working in this is the most technologically connected we have ever been as a civilization. It is the most accessible to each other than we have ever been in civilization. We are actually over-informed. There's a lot of over-information that we have than we've ever had in the entire civilization. So the youth today, they have few excuses because they have a lot of conditions enabled for them, especially those in the diaspora, to do so much, Right now, we are seeing global trends, and these global trends are being championed by young people. And these global trends are on the front and center of technology, AI, that is a space that is young people heavy. And our Ugandan youth, I will be very disappointed if this train leaves you behind, because you have all it takes, We have smartphones. You can get on all these AI tools, AI agents right in front of you, right in your pocket. If you don't even know how to, we have friends who are very brilliant called artificial intelligence, ChatGPT. Hey, tell me how to do this. So we really don't have excuses on not going over and above to do a lot of things. And again, because you're standing in a space where it's not just you have access to other global citizens, other global youth, tapping into expertise, tapping into networks of people that come from different upbringing, who have different perspectives based on different education systems, is something that young people should leverage. And then finally, we have platforms that connect young people, because we have a lot of social anxiety for the young people that came up after COVID. Because of the lockdown, people were isolated and people forgot how to be around other people. And a lot of our young people are actually struggling with mental health issues, isolation issues, social awkwardness. All these are issues that we should not neglect and just look over and think, they are fine. Our young people are struggling in different ways than we ever did. If you're out there and you need help, don't be shy to talk to somebody. I was told suicide rates are going high among these young people, and some of it has been affiliated to social media. Some of it has been affiliated to social media bullying. Some of it has been affiliated to overwhelming lifestyles that have been amplified by all this information right in their faces, and a lot of them have felt the need to take their own lives. So I would like to call upon all young people in the diaspora who may be feeling certain things, reach out for help, find a friend. If you can't, at Uganda Global Forum, we have a website. It's at ugandaglobal.org. We have places where you can send us an email, you can send us chat, hit us up and talk to us, because what we do is that we are connected to a chain of global friends, global Ugandans. There's people who may want to even say, oh, Gloria, I saw you talk to JP, but I don't know how to get him. It's like, don't worry. Just reach out. Oh, Gloria, I don't know how to talk to my mom. I have this issue. I can say, don't worry, I can connect you to an expert. We have Ugandans who are, professionals in spaces of, mental health, but also career guidance, but also there's so much that Ugandans have in the diaspora. So reach out to us in the Global Forum. We're going to have programs that will invite you in. Come chat up with other young people from other parts of the world. If you're a young person based in the US and you have not traveled to other countries, don't worry about that. We have programs that will bring other countries to you, other Ugandans based in other countries. Young people in China, we'll be talking to young people in Cyprus. Young people in Norway, we'll be talking to young people in South Korea, etc., etc. Come on out. You count. You matter. You're not too young to engage as Uganda's global citizens. We'll be looking forward to having you in our spaces. And stay tuned for all the programs that will be coming your way. So over to you.
Okay, nice. My final question is, what makes you a proud Ugandan?
What makes me a proud Ugandan is, someone told me that, Gloria, I think you love Uganda more than Uganda loves itself. I said, nah. That will never happen. But what makes me a proud Ugandan is what Uganda has made me. I did write a LinkedIn post on this song we used to sing when we were kids in Uganda primary school, singing, "We young women and men of Uganda are marching along the path of education, singing and dancing with joy." I don't know if you sang that song. And for our beautiful listeners who may not know this song, I think that is our school anthem, the Ugandan school anthem. Yeah, I'm told kids still sing along to that song. And I recently visited the lyrics and just made a big reflection, because back then we just sang. It was routine. We didn't know what these words meant. We are the pillars of tomorrow's Uganda. Let us rise and embrace true knowledge. I never understood what that meant. But Uganda did to me what it promised it would do. It gave me the pillar of knowledge. It gave me the foundation. It gave me the ground. It gave me the peace, and I'm so privileged and happy that I tapped into that. As a young child singing with young women and men of Uganda at that age, it protected me, it shaped me, it modeled me to be the person I am today. And so I feel like I have a duty to go back to this country, because it nurtured me to be the pillar to come and build the nation to even be better for those who are yet to come or who will come after us. So Uganda is my pillar. Uganda built me. Uganda is my identity that will never, even if I change names, even if I will never stop being Ugandan. It's my DNA. And Uganda is beautiful. Uganda is beautiful. It has issues. We have struggles, just like any country. Every country has those. But Uganda is a place where you go, and the warmth, the weather, but the humanity, the Ubuntu that is there. And this is, I say this having traveled the world intensively and seeing how other nations live. Uganda is special. Uganda is special. And to me, I feel indebted to giving back to the country that made me who I am today.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Gloria, for your words and your insight on the diaspora and the work you do at the Global Forum. We hope to keep in touch more and more and work hand in hand with whatever your team is doing. Thank you so much. We truly appreciate you. Thank you so much.
You're very welcome, and you have a good one.